Welcome to the Registered Investment Advisor Podcast, where financial services marketing expert Seth Green interviews experts, executives, and top producers to share can't-miss tips on how they successfully manage their financial service firms, grow their businesses, create great relationships, and influence the industry. And now, here's your host, Seth Green.
Welcome to the RIA podcast. This is your host, Seth Green. Today, I've got the good fortune to be joined by John Ensley from Ensley Financial. John, thanks so much for joining us.
My pleasure, Seth. Thanks for having me.
Our pleasure. Let's go back in time just a little bit. How did you get into the business in the first place?
Well, it was actually some personal circumstances that led me into financial services. I had a ESOP plan in the late 90s and was supposed to blow up into an IPO, and it didn't. It fell apart. And then from there, a real estate project as we built up to the 2008 timeframe that also imploded. And that was kind of some dark days for me that resulted in a wake-up call, I'll call it. And so that led me to do a lot of study, a lot of research, get myself educated. And somewhere along the way, I discovered the bank on yourself concept and went down that road personally, set up some policies, and realized not a lot of advisors are talking about things of that nature. And I was ready for a career change. So I got licensed, got a lot of training, and started my practice in 2012.
All right. Well, congratulations. I'm sure the longer version could fill a book if it hasn't already somewhere. So 2012, obviously the industry and the business, you've seen a lot of change. Who is an ideal client for you now?
So ideal clients are going to be people that are looking for safety and that want control over their money. So they want to give up control to some outside forces. And then are looking for passive income. So those are the three things I would say I focus on: safety, control, and creating passive income streams.
That makes a lot of sense. Do any of those folks, do they fall into certain categories, demographics, age ranges, professions, business owners, anything like that?
It kind of falls into all those demographics at some level, but I have to tell you, I have a particular passion for working with folks that have kind of a big dream that they're building towards. They want to buy the RV or the sailboat and sail around the world when they retire, or an airplane, or some kind of adventure goal, I guess we'll call it. I have a real passion for working with those particular clients.
And what are some of the biggest mistakes they are making that you're helping them fix?
So there's a couple of things, and again, that could probably fill a book as well, but there's a couple of things that really stand out. And one is that there's quite often a mismatch between what someone's actual goals are and the tools that they're using. So we'll find that, somebody wants to retire early and take off on that sailboat when they're 50 or 55 or something, but they've put all their money into tools that they can't access till they're 59 and a half. Right. So there's that mismatch. And so sometimes we have to take some steps to get things aligned so they can actually achieve their goal. The second thing is debt. People end up with too much debt, and it's going to create a roadblock to getting where they want to go. And so using the bank on yourself concept, I have a program that I call Debt Alchemy, and just help people wipe out that debt much more quickly than they thought possible.
I know we're not going to go into specifics or make actual recommendations on today's podcast, but how does that process work? I'm sure a lot of our advisory listeners are familiar with the bank on yourself concept, but I would bet that a large percentage of them have seen it used for wealth accumulation or tax-free generation. Talk a little bit about how the debt reduction process works a little differently.
You bet. It's once we build some equity up in these whole life insurance policies, we can access that equity pretty much for anything we want. And the very common cases are major purchases or real estate investments or things like that. But one of the things we can do is essentially refinance existing debt and use the advantages within the policy. So I can give you an example of a gentleman that I just worked with. He's 70 years old and shared with me that he had $53,000 in credit cards. And he could just hear in his voice, he was hopeless. He had no idea how he was ever going to get out from under that. Fortunately, he'd been funding his policy for a little while. And so we basically mapped out a 5-year plan that would take all of that within 1 year. All those credit cards would be paid off. And it takes about 3 or 4 more years to eliminate the policy loans on the life insurance policies. So the net effect, if you map it out on the credit cards over 10 years, he was looking at $122,000 in interest alone on those cards. The way it all worked out with the plan is by the end of the 5.25 years, his total interest cost was just under $8,000. So we wiped out the debt in 5.25 years and saved just, obviously an enormous amount of interest costs. He was over the moon, of course. Went from hopeless, I don't know how I'm ever going to deal with this, to wow, in 5 years, I've got it all wiped out. So, that's a great example of how it works.
That is absolutely incredible. What are some of the biggest misconceptions or pushbacks you get from clients when you present them with a concept like that?
I talk a lot about marketing messages, and that is really, I think, where the biggest pushback comes from. It's confusing. If you go online, there's any point of view, especially in the financial space, that you want to take, you can find anything you want online to support, to say it's the best thing in the world, and also to say it's the worst thing in the world. And I think people in general, consumers, just get confused on what to believe. So I'll always encourage people to not focus on the marketing messages. Don't make decisions based on marketing messages, but instead do some critical thinking. Actually crunch some figures and apply that to your goals and objectives, and make decisions based on what makes the most sense for you, not what one guru or another, myself included, is saying about this or that financial product. So I think that's where most of the pushback comes from is, sounds too good to be true. What's the catch? Or, things like that. And usually we just overcome that by using good logical information and numbers, and kind of once you understand the mechanics of how things work, it doesn't seem magical anymore.
Understood. What is working for you the best lately to bring more clients in the door?
So I'm trying to get myself out there more in terms of doing interviews like this with you, Seth, and putting material out online and more content. And so I'm kind of becoming this content creator, which is, it's a weird thing for me. I never really wanted to be that. But I love working with clients. I love that part of my business. I'm not super comfortable being the center of attention, but what I've realized in this business is I kind of have to put myself out there center stage in order to attract more clients. And in fact, that is working. So
awesome. Yes, we all have to get a little bit. Everything we want is right outside our comfort zone, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yes. It's been a good learning experience.
Well, good for you. I know that you are committed to constantly improving yourself and your skills. Who are some of the folks that you have learned from in your career? And what are some of the best books you've read that have had the biggest impact?
Well, that's another potentially lengthy topic. So within the I'll call it the Bank on Yourself organization, there's about 200 advisors that are similar to what I do. And some of them have been in this business for, 40 years or more. So I've learned a ton from several individuals, as well as the group in general. That's been a tremendous mentoring process over the last, 11 years. So, I would say an organization like that, where you can really plug into some people on a personal level and learn from mentors, has been really tremendous. From a standpoint of books, it ranges everything from Rich Dad, Poor Dad to, in terms of personal finance, or The Richest Man in Babylon, some of those financial concepts, to Living a Life of Purpose was a book, and it's the author is escaping me at the moment, but there's been so many books, it's kind of hard to dial in on one in particular.
You have achieved a good deal of success, not only for yourself, but more importantly for your clients. What is your biggest challenge now?
I think my biggest challenge now is that topic we talked about a moment ago. It's just expanding the business, creating more. And I kind of went on a mission about 3 years ago in that direction. So that's when I got my CHFC from the American College of Financial Services. I've passed the Series 65 exam, and am moving towards being an RIA, having my company set up as an RIA. So, we're expanding those areas in order to attract more and more the types of clients that we most want to focus on.
Your passion is obvious. What do you like best about what you're doing?
Oh, I tell you, I'm the luckiest man in the world from that standpoint. I get up every day and I love every minute of what I do. So, I think I'll do this till they nail the coffin shut, probably.
Well, congratulations on that. For our folks watching or listening who want to learn more about your process and your strategy, where is the best place for them to go?
Yeah, absolutely. So I always suggest a conversation is the best place to begin. Everybody's had the experience of trying to find a doctor or a lawyer or a whatever professional, and you look at ratings and you look at all these things, but at the end of the day, you go talk to a few people, and that's how you figure out where the fit is. And so that's what I would suggest as well. So I've set up a landing page. It's called jumponwithjohn, JOHN.com, where you can jump right into my calendar, grab a free 20 to 30 minute strategy session. We have a conversation. That's it. And if it's a good fit, or if you feel like I can help, then that's the way to connect. Jumponwithjohn.com.
All right. We will send everyone there. If you were starting your career over again, knowing what you know now, what would you have done differently?
I would have definitely gotten much better, much faster at marketing. My first year, I fell flat on my face, right? I had this idea that my Rolodex, so to speak, was going to somehow support me in that first year. That turned out to be a completely false assumption. So the marketing piece was my slow uptake, and I would have moved much quicker with some of the marketing approaches.
That's great advice. I think if we've come up in this business, we have at the beginning of our careers had a branch manager who made us do the project 200 or 400, where we were supposed to call everybody we knew and get permission to practice our presentation on them and ask them for referrals. And, judging by the 90-something% attrition rate, we see how well that works.
Yes, our acres of diamonds, so to speak.
Yes, that is another great book by Russell Cromwell. Well, we know your time is incredibly valuable. We know you're very, very busy, John. We greatly appreciate you spending some time with us.
My pleasure. It's been awesome, Seth. Thanks again for having me and having the opportunity to share.
You are welcome. This has been Seth Green for the RIA podcast with John Ensley. Check out jumponwithjohn.com. Thank you all for watching or listening. We will talk to you or see you next time.
49 faces looked to him in triumph. Over the last 12 months, they had each taken turns and promoted his business for a week at a time, driving over $987,342 in revenue. What if you had a network of 50 centers of influence who promoted your business every week for a year? Grab your copy of the #1 Amazon best-selling book, The Ultimate Guide to Growing Your Business with a Podcast, at 33% off the Amazon price by going to ultimatepodcastbook.com. Again, that website for 33% off the Amazon price is ultimatepodcastbook.com.